with, fantasy football resources, different things out there. Are there different sites that you use, like as a consumer, or sites that you use to help you collect data that gets driven into your process? Or are there sites and resources out there that really are complementary to late round fantasy football that you'd recommend to people out there?
Yeah, I think that, if there were a site that's complementary, or sites that are complementary, I think that it would be like a place where you can get editorial more so. Because I've really changed my approach to what I'm doing to, instead of, an article every day, or, which I would be doing I started, at lateroundqb.com as a blogger at my own site. And then Numberfire, I was just pumping out content constantly. And then with FanDuel, still pumping out content constantly. I've really shifted my focus to not be as editorial, and all my written stuff. Yeah, I have my newsletter, but it's really informal. And then, I have my draft guides and stuff, or my draft guide and my prospect guide, which is, they're behemoths. I mean, these are projects that I'm working on. So it's really not, there's not as much editorial on my end anymore, which I love. It's nice to not have to feel so forced. They're feeling so forced to get that out in that way. So I think like an Establish the Run is a really good compliment to the kind of thing that I do, because they do a lot of the editorial stuff. They're doing the same type of interesting research and such, but it's just from a different angle, different perspective. And I'm much more season-long focused than them. They're a lot, you can get a lot of DFS and betting stuff with them. So I think that from a complement standpoint, that makes the most sense. From a resource standpoint, though, obviously I'm data heavy, and I care about data. And so, StatHead is a great site for folks to get introduced to some of this data. You can query a lot of interesting things. Numberfire is still a place where you can get really good information and expected points related things for football. Fantasy data is a really good spot to get the basic information. And they now have advanced stats there too. And then PFF, I mean, PFF is now approachable in terms of being able to afford it for the average Joe. It wasn't always like that a handful of years ago. And now you can go in there and find basically the majority of the things you would want to find, slot rate, different quarterback metrics, etc. And so those are some of the more data and stat heavy resources that I end up using.
That's awesome, man. Great recommendations for sure.